thank you everyone for joining us today. It's my great pleasure to have a range of wonderful guests from various disciplines, and obviously we share a lot of interests and practices as well. And yeah, this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to for audience and to ask questions. Please do. I will put some little prompts up at the bottom of the screen. I'd appreciate if anyone could let us know if there's any audio or video issues during the stream, and or anything else that you think is important. And yeah, this is so wonderful. So once again, thank you so much. And let's just get things started here. So I'm going to bring in the guests one at a time. And we're going to start with, here we go, bring in Brother James. Are you ready there, James? Hello and welcome, James.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, Phil. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much, James. Now, it's absolute pleasure as always to talk with you, good sir, and to have you on this this monumentous sort of like initial experience occasion here. I just want to mention that James is the founder and creator of PerseusArcaneAcademy.com. I've put a thingy right there, so you can go and check out the site. What's happening in your world there, James?
Oh, so much. I mean, and on terms of Perseus, well, we got huge posts on the way. 9,000, 10,000, 12,000 word posts on the way. We got more courses coming. We got alchemy coming. We got all sorts of things to expand the help and assistance towards the Bardon curriculum as well. We've also got my first love, the internal arts and martial arts, coming to Perseus as well. So that's the big one that I'm very excited about.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that. And a perfect size encapsulation of what's happening and what's up. I really appreciate that. And now I'm going to bring in good brother Bob Smith from 60 Skills. Hello, Bob.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for letting me participate in the making of a Hermetics boy band. And we'll kind of go from there, I guess.
Oh, man, that's so wonderful and poignant. And Bob, what's happening in the land of 60 Skills, man? Give us a nutshell.
Well, I just started work on the Zodiac courses, both the basic, which anybody can do with no prior training, and the advanced, which is based off the stacking and 60 Skills, master course curriculum. After that, over the course of the next several months, we'll be rolling out a Greco-Roman invocation, a Shingon invocation, a Buddha's Diamond Palm course, a Troll Core basic course, and of course the Sephiro course, which will finish off the 60 Skills Kabbalah master curriculum thing. Basically, I've got the time now and the financing to do all of this full time. So hopefully there will be many happy people out there. And as per usual, bring on the haters, because I know they're coming. So that's pretty much it.
So in other words, there's not much been going on. Okay, well, thanks for that synopsis of inactivity.
Sure.
Right, brother, thank you so much. So you guys check out 60skills.com. Keep things moving here. Now I'm going to bring in David Paul Coleman. Hello, David. Thank you and welcome so much for joining us.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me. And hello, everyone else.
Now, for those that aren't aware, David is an exceptional, well-known and very busy writer and astrologer. His astralvisions.org website. Please tell me, anyone, if I get the website or your preference of leading people to certain things is something than otherwise desired. Now, this website is fantastically dense, thorough, and you could probably spend the rest of your life there and be constantly satiated and never run out of things to read. David, how's the weather out there?
Dark. It's just gone midnight here in Germany, but it's lovely during the day. We've got beautiful springtime weather here at the moment, which I'm greatly enjoying. Thank you for those things that you said. The archive of all my work is actually not at astralvisions.org, which is where I do most of my taking orders for scheduling meetings with people. but at WordPress, at Journeys in the Astral Light on WordPress. And there you'll find just a ton of stuff, like you said. And I'm in the process of putting together at the moment something that makes it easier to navigate through all of that for the public. I've got my own spreadsheet, and I'm in the process of sort of like making a post that will basically tell people what's there and what everything is, because I've been doing that for 11 years now. I've only been active in this community and in astrology community for longer, for about 25 years now. And I've been doing all kinds of stuff, like with people all the way through that time. I wrote a book in 2011, 2012. That's the 26 Keys, which is my take on astrological magic. And since then, the blog, or the Journeys in the Astral Light, it's not really a blog because they're so long, the posts, but that is in support of the book. So there is like 11 years of support material for the book, but you'll also find just a bunch of stuff that's related to magic, as well as astrology and other stuff under the umbrella of those things, which is basically pretty much everything in the metaphysical areas. So that's me. And at the moment, I'm working on expanding my reach to reach more people. I'm working on making more videos. I'm going to be working with Perseus, creating a course for people to do some of the work that's already been presented in the 26 Keys online, and various other things are happening. So it's quite a busy time for me.
Wonderful, thank you. And yeah, you know, you saved me from having to ask the question, but that was so great. And yeah, I tell you what, I'll get that that web address for the journeys, and I'll get that into the description. But feel free by all means to throw it into the chat, and I'll make a little banner for it while we're having the discussion, so I can put it on the screen. Right. Thank you so much. And of course, last and by no means least, and I was going to put this person first, and then it's just ended up being that we have the last addition to the for the moment. Hopefully there'll be someone else joining us, but I'd like to welcome the very cool, lovely Victoria Amadea. Hello, Victoria.
Hi, thank you so much.
So how are you doing, sister? It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What's happening? Tell us what's going on.
Thank you for having me. So I have a very humble introduction compared to my counterparts. I don't have any courses or books, but I'm just a personal practitioner who feels interested in sharing some of my experiences, my insights. I created a YouTube about maybe 2 weeks ago. I just got 101 followers. Yay! Yeah, under the same handle on TikTok, I do a lot of kind of vlogs about different things about magic, esoterica. I also have a blog called mysteriummuse.com. I haven't written on there for about a year, but I need to get on there again. I'm primarily a student of Franz Bardon and his system, but I also explore other forms of magic, esoterica. I have an internal martial arts background, which is kind of my solid initiation into real esoterica. Before I dabbled kind of with magic and astral work as a teenager, and then I went into the Eastern traditions, and through that I also got introduced to Franz Bardon, and here I am now, thanks to the community as well. I'm so glad you're hosting this, Phil. I've been wanting something like this for so long, because it's thanks to the community that I've been able to progress and learn so much. So thank you so much for providing this for everyone who's watching.
Hey, no worries. And thank you. I really appreciate that too. Like, I think it too, like, you know, when you're bringing, like, everyone's getting sort of interviewed on doing things individually. And when we sort of bring this thing together, I think what's kind of cool is that everyone can sort of see us in a bit more of a chill, sort of relaxed sort of situation. There's no, yeah. And it's so wonderful. And so, yes, thank you for that. And we'll definitely put some more of your offering details into the description below, Mysterium Muse, your TikTok and your YouTube. And yeah, I'm loving your YouTube videos and like all your videos, to be honest. They're really wonderful. And your posts as well on Facebook, etc., etc., etc. Thank you so much for joining us, Victoria. Now, there was going to be another person joining us, so I haven't seen them yet. So we're just going to kick off and move. But if Phillip Harris-Smith is watching and would like us to join in while we have the space, if the other chat's not here, you're most welcome to join us, Phillip. just jump back in and I'll introduce you. But so this is how we're going to run this, guys. It's going to be so informal, laid back, and organic. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to say to the crowd, out into the audience there, where is my little thing that I made? Okay, so if you're in the audience and you're going, man, what a lineup of people, there's a question I'd love to get a range of answers from. I'd really love to hear what these particular people think. You can ask a question specifically towards a person, one of the panel members, or you can ask a general question or a couple of people. It's cool. And please join in. This is very much an audience-centric opportunity to sort of throw your questions into the ring and see what comes out. And we certainly have a wonderful array of people here. So I'm going to just start off with a question, and I've got someone that I'm going to ask first, but this one's for Victoria. So Victoria, you came in last. We'll ask you the first question. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the first question I have is, okay, so let's say you wake up, you're 20 years old with full knowledge of what you know right now at this point. How would you play it differently, and would you play it differently?
So I've thought about this question before, and I would not play it differently, because I'm of the personally, other people may have, other great opinions and perspectives otherwise, but I feel like every experience I've had has been part of my training, my growth, has led me into different directions, to meet different people, to activate different things, to learn different things. So although like the story arc may not be I would personally write with my current mind of the life I would have liked to build out, I feel like all of it is beautiful in a way, because it was all different dynamics, mentally, astrally, socially, developmentally, meeting people, doing things that all kind of made me who I am now. So from that perspective, I really appreciate everything that went into my progress, my development experiences, and making me who I am today.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm just going to keep moving along here. Yeah, I can totally resonate with that, because I'm here right now because of what's happened to me. Essentially, that's sort of my take on it. But now Philip's not here, but James, sir, how would you answer that question? You wake up, you're 20 years old, you know stuff, and you're like, going, man, I get to maybe play it with greater understanding and a greater width and depth of perception, perhaps.
Ooh. Well, I mean, first of all, waking up at 20 would be amazing. That's already a result. But I mean, I thought of the similar to Victoria. I mean, who I am right now is because of the many, many, many huge, terrible mistakes I made. And the choices kind of forced me to make other choices. So there's one bit that I wouldn't be who I am now. I wouldn't have what I have now. Maybe I wouldn't be in Asia. Maybe I'd be an accountant or something like that. But yeah, I mean, first of all, I think one thing I would say to myself is, I think one of my biggest motivations was the search, the wild, crazy search to find the truth, and which was probably a little bit out of balance, to be honest. So maybe I could probably let myself know that, hey, don't worry, it's it's really all in Bardon's, and I could have avoided a lot of I kissed a lot of frogs to find the truth. So I could have maybe avoided some of those experiences, but that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, those experiences, though I look back and cringe, they did force me to make quite strong decisions and make big moves. I came to Asia with 2 suitcases and 200 pounds. If I hadn't have had the previous experience, maybe I wouldn't be here. So yeah, it's a very tricky one, but I think the biggest one would be to say, hey, don't worry. Because the search was my main motivator. So I would say, hey, relax, it's all there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I just love the way things unfold. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, all right, let's keep moving here. So, right, David, how would you sort of would you play it differently? Are you happy with things? You're 20 years old. You're like, man, I got all this extra juice, or I don't know. How would you respond to?
I think anybody who'd be given that chance would absolutely play it differently, right? I mean, you'd go, if you had that chance again, like, I'm 53, so you're talking about like more than half the time that I've been alive, right? Just like wiped out, and then I go back with all of this that I know. I'm not sure I'd be too happy about it, to be honest. I like where I am now. I'm content with where I am. I wouldn't maybe make that wish if I had the 3 wishes from the genie in Aladdin's lamp, right? That's definitely not one I would make. And I like being older. I like being more experienced. I like the feeling of having seen it all before in the world. It means that you don't freak out so much when you hear headlines, or you feel that something is going on, right? And you're also just more like comfortable in your own self, comfortable in your own being. If I could take all of that back with me too, right? Yeah, there are definitely some choices that I would have made differently. But in hindsight, like Victoria says, those choices have been valuable and led to a beautiful thing, like a beautiful creative process, the creative process of becoming, of being, of learning, which is never ending and ongoing. And so again, why would you want to go back? Is my feeling about those kinds of questions. Right. Time travel doesn't really appeal to me, except maybe to have a look at the future, right? Or the very distant past, but not to dabble with my own timeline.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, like you said, who wouldn't, maybe if you did, you'd be sitting there, you'd be going, oh, man, I tell you what, knowing what I know now, I could make some big waves in this pond. And do I actually want to? It's like there's cause and effect relationships with decisions, and so yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, David. Great response. And okay, and so the last person on this particular list of this question is Bob. Bob, what would you how would you play this one?
Pretty much in the same vein as David and Victoria and James. The only 2 things that I would change is I never would have started smoking. It's a filthy habit, so there would have been that. But in terms of what we do here, I would have started publishing earlier. And I read an interview by a publisher once who's fairly famous. Of course, I can't remember his name. And he said, everybody has a book in them. What I would caveat that with in a modern era is that not only does everybody have a book in them, but they've also got a course teaching something in them. And I would advise everybody out there to share that with other people sooner rather than later, because there's someone out there that's going to resonate with, for whom figuring out how to do that is going to be really hard by themselves. And so if you went through the pain of developing a skill at something, you kind of owe it to everybody else to pay it forward. So I'm not even saying this from a financial standpoint. It's just, it's hard enough to figure out how to live your life. Figuring out how to be a magician or a fisherman or a car mechanic or, anything practical is equally as hard. And if you actually know how to do that and can express that, please do so to make it easier for everybody else.
Wonderful response. And yeah, I had this this short phrase that I dropped a little while ago, which is like, surround yourself with quality people and then encourage them to become teachers, because everyone's looking for, I think about this, what would I tell my younger self? Where was the person I was looking for 10 years ago when I started having meditative experiences? I had to go find that. And now I am that person, or I want to be that person. And, but hey, thank you so much, Bob. Great response. And yeah, really great response, actually. I'm grateful for that. Now we've got Aaron's in the chat here, so I'm going to bring him in. I want to go straight into it. Okay. Is he ready? He's done his hair. I'm just waiting for him there. Okay. Any moment now. 3, 2, and 1, 1, 1. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Can you jack your volume up just a little bit, bro? I can't get your input
Well,
volume.
just trying to play around with my microphone at the moment.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Okay, well, welcome to Aaron Ellis, everybody. Aaron is from the artofinnerpower.com. He also has a wonderful YouTube channel where he's been doing interviews, and he's just dropped a really fun interview with a friend of his, Ange, and it's a great half-hour watch talking about martial arts and talking about specifically about Systema. And that was something that came up early on in my exploration because a chap who just introduced me to hands-on healing at a Bruce Lipton conference of about 50 people that I attended in that's a story for another time, but this chap showed me Systema and also empty force type phenomena as well. And so that really got me cracking. So Aaron, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you, sir? What's been happening? Then I'm going to pepper you with a question.
Going on, martial arts, hypnotherapy for me, just living life and enjoying stuff, and really happy to be here this morning with everybody.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you so much for joining in. And for those that don't know Aaron is he has national titles in Muay Thai in Australia, and he also I think you've been teaching Qigong as well. You and I've had many conversations about many esoteric things because we've both been on a similar journey looking for things that we can validate for ourselves as well. And I think that's a big part of why, like we were talking a lot about Mark Rasmus back in the day as well, because, he just gave us some keys to the kingdom, man, and that we've been able to apply that in our respective interests. Myself would say healing and Qigong, and yourself with Qigong and martial arts and other things. But Aaron, I'm just going to go straight and ask you this question. You wake up, you're 20 years old with full knowledge of up to this point right now. So you're like, oh my gosh, I'm young again, younger, and because you're a pretty young dude anyway. And would you play it any differently? And if so, how would you play it differently?
Excellent question. I'd start off with really focusing on my health of the body at an early age, not realizing that as you get older you start to decline, but when you're in your 20s you feel great, you feel fresh, you don't tend to worry about your health as much. And I think if I was to rewind, I would really focus particularly on increasing my health and well-being beyond what it is now.
Yeah, wonderful thing. I think about this too, because, I lived a pretty funky rock and roll life back in my sort of 20s and 30s. And man, I tell you what, I could share some photos and you wouldn't even recognize me. I've come a long way, but I've certainly put some scars into my system. I think that maybe I probably would, that would be one thing myself. If I was going to answer this question, I'd say, well, there's some things that I would play a little bit differently because I do feel there was some unnecessary disadvantaging that I participated in my development and my years. But hey, like I said, I'm here because of what I've done and where I am. And so, but yeah, I mean, one thing I say to my younger siblings and that is, man, look, I've got a few years on them, right? Like look after your health because that's the carriage that's going to carry you forward. And with the life expectancy projected to sort of be a bit longer, I understand, tell me if I'm wrong here, the quality of those extra years is going to be what it's all about, because you can have a longer life, but not so much of a good quality of that life. So wonderful response. Thank you, sir. Now, what I do, guys, is we've got some questions in the chat here. So I'm just going to belt something else here. So somebody has asked, let's see, we'll just go through. Okay, so I'm just going to float this question to whoever wants to go first. So now some of these obviously, people may not be comfortable in answering, or they're not interested, and that's fine. So this is just one that I'm going to float to the panel. And like I said, we'll keep them as short as we can. But the first one is most extraordinary magical experience. Now, we've plenty of pillars of silence on this crew here. And so I'm just going to float this. And if nobody responds, that's perfectly fine.
I can go first. I'll actually share two most magical experiences that have been on my recent memory. I think there's so many that I can pull from, but I'll give two. One was when I was like 18 years old. I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I came out of a large theater play at night. And when I walked outside, something just activated and made me awake, like Buddha awake. I was looking around, I could see everyone as the spirits they were, like in their body. You know, like a couple holding hands and walking down the street, but who they really were in spirit form, and observing how, you know, as Shakespeare says, we all play roles in this world. So, you know, our true forms may be different than the roles we play in the physical world. And the full like realization that the physical world, oh, this, I'm at the bottom of everything. I could apprehend and appreciate how all the energy from the higher planes was trickling down and materializing in the physical world. Like it was a very stark contrast of having my higher nature aware in my physical body, of being on earth and having that awareness and memory of, you know, different planes of existence. Um, and I said I'll give two, so I'll try to be real brief. The other one was one time when I was doing trading with um, some esoteric training, and then all of a sudden an awareness came down upon me again. And it best I could describe it is kind of primordial or supernal awareness. And just this observation, like a sense of self that had no identification with me, like as my physical self, Victoria. But it's like, oh, I am here. This is this body I'm in. And it was just a very different, you know, a very unique signature. Again, that was kind of like a primordial sense of an higher awareness that has been awakened. You know, in Western tradition, you can consider that maybe your holy guardian angel, your higher self, and there's different degrees that you can activate. You know, but we're in the physical world, and we have all these different metaphysical mechanics to do with. But I'm very grateful that I had those experiences, and they stuck with me because it reminds me of different states of reality, different potential we have, and things like that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Wow. Very intriguing. Okay. Well, it's very generous of you to share that. And so would anyone else like to jump in on this one?
Sure, I'll have a go at this one. I mean, it's not the stereotypical magical, you know, Lord of the Rings type experience, but for me, it was one of the first times I realized how magical real life could be. And this was, I was in the States. I was in, where was I? In Thousand Oaks, just finishing like a practice there where we'd been out on this sort of old Indian ground through the night. It's kind of like a weird time with a teacher out there. And we were very much encouraged to kind of start make sort of manifesting things and using what we'd learned to try and create our reality. And at that time, I was very much into a book called by Sadhu Sundar Singh, who was a Christian mystic, and all sorts of miraculous stories about Sadhu Sundar Singh. And you know, really, no one at that time or even now really talks about Sadhu Sundar Singh. So I was very much into him, and I was really thinking about it all the time. So I was getting all these just general coincidences in life, at Starbucks, at the coffee shop, on the way to the airport. And then as I get on the plane, this Indian lady sits next to me. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if she knows Sadhu Sundar Singh. And then she pulls out the exact same little orange book that I've got. It's Sadhu Sundar Singh, with all her notes. And then we sort of realize, and it turns out that she's actually got a huge personal connection to him, his teachings, and also her family do as well. And that you just don't see. So that for me, it sounds, you know, it's not like some angel came, but actually for me, it was the first time that I realized just how quickly something could manifest in real life and how magical it could be.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you, man. That's a great story. Would anyone else like to jump in on this one?
I mean, I've written about some of my experiences. I've shared some of them online. So I've already talked about those, and I don't mind talking about those again, right? But I could give you something more recent. I was thinking, what's extraordinary for me, right? What is extraordinary? What is not normal? What is not ordinary in my magical experience now? Because it's true. Every day is a magical experience, and every day is like the most extraordinary magical experience so far, because it's all led up. It's all got its like history behind it. It's all led up to this cutting edge of where you are now. But there was in terms of like extraordinary, in terms of like, I think this probably won't happen again. Like I probably won't see that happen again. It's like a once in a lifetime magical experience. It was something that happened a couple of years ago during the coronavirus, when one of my friends moved out of a house, and it was a house that they built. And so it had no history, no ghosts, no spirits, nothing attached, right? The whole street was actually built. And I helped them to move out. And one morning I was out walking my beautiful dog and walked past their old house, and I looked up and I saw the new owner in the house hanging up her curtains. And when I saw her, I had this thought, take a picture. Then I just thought, wait, that's creepy. Don't take a picture of someone who's just moved into their own home. And like that part of my brain instantly shut it down, right? But there was that intuition in that moment to take a picture. And then I called my friend after and said, hey, I just mentioned, I just saw your new neighbor in the house. Oh, they don't have the keys yet. There's nobody there. And so it's like, what did I see? Who did I see? Where did that come from? What was it? Quite an extraordinary experience for me, because I could rule out ghosts. That was ruled out. They built the house. There was no history. No one had died there. I knew that. It was crazy. And then I thought, all of a sudden, I took this into meditation. I had this thought, all of a sudden, they built the house. It's a hearth spirit. It's just been born, and it's like putting the curtains out for the next person. They created this hearth spirit when they built this home, and as they moved out, she moved in to prepare it for the next, and she showed herself to me. She was absolutely physical. She looked as physical as you or I. That was quite an extraordinary experience. Seeing the birth of a spirit was quite amazing.
Wow, what a stunning story. Thank you so much for sharing. Far out. I've got to say, just quickly on my own side, it's hard to keep track of them all. I put them in the diary. But the more I immerse myself in the practices, the more encouraged I am. And I'll just say that, like I find that this whole process is a process of encouragement, and that, sometimes, it might be a bit of a space before you have something significant, but, I find myself not wanting to do it for the experiences, but when I do have them, my gosh, and, self-generated experiences is also part of that. And I have to say, just quickly off the bat, the depth point after doing the equilibrium exercises, that's like nothing else. And the letter D, for some reason, the letter D is just rocking my world at the moment. I needed some vitamin D. That's why I'm rocking the blue today. So that was sweet. Okay, now, so let's get moving along. So if anyone else wants to join in, yes, no, on this one?
I'll keep it short. In terms of meaning, the first time I fully immersed into non-dual light completely, and got to that point that you can't define positively, that was pretty mind-blowing. But a lot of people here know that I view a lot of what we do as very mechanical. You do one thing and then another thing kind of happens, because that's the way reality is structured. In about 25 years ago, I was running the orbits a lot to induce Kundalini awakening, along the lines of what Glenn Morris wrote about in his books. And it worked. You ran the orbits, and then all of a sudden this thing popped up my spine and blew out the top of my head. And it was just the fact that the technology worked the way technology works. You do this thing, this other thing happens. And the fact that a non-religious agnostic guy in Southern Arizona was able to pull this off, right, meant it wasn't unique to me. And that realization was like, oh, okay. Because, you know, a lot of these spiritual works are written from the standpoint of, oh, this, you know, individual born under a full moon at the top of a mountain peak with the tattoo of a dove on his right ankle, and, you know, blah blah blah.
He's the chosen one.
Yeah, exactly. Not you, me, or anybody else. And so that was remarkable. But anyway, thanks.
That, you know, that's great. A great response. Thank you. All right. Well, if that's that, we'll keep shifting along here. So now the next question, because the only one left out of that one, where are we? Okay. All right. Let's do the second topic, and then we'll come back to some audience questions. So the next topic is, and we're going to start with Aaron. Aaron, what has Franz Bardon, or in this case, we'll probably refer to Mark Rasmus, which is a modern teacher and translator of Bardon. Can I get some of you guys just to mute your mics, please? What has Mr. Rasmus or Bardon offered that sets them apart from other teachers? E.g., how have they provided missing pieces or new ways of looking at existing models? Aaron, for you.
First of all, it's been the language that Mark uses, very more Western terminology, and applying the practicality to these teachings rather than just a lot of it's intellectual. Mark actually applies it to actually touching people, and due to the interaction with the other person, that is what really gave me that feeling of okay, there is this energy, because when you're working by yourself, there is obviously these subtle feelings, but you don't really know if you're imagining it or if something's actually happening. But then, due to Mark's teachings and following his course, and then realizing that there's an interaction between two bodies when you touch, there's an energy transfer as such. And that was sort of very eye-opening to me, to realize not only do we have interactions with people when we're hanging out with a friend, we breathe the same, you know, we tend to adopt the same postures, but also in the same, when we start doing internal work, we start to find that the person we're working with starts to respond to our internal changes. And that, for me, being able to change your own internal structure or even your internal thinking and to have an external change in another person, that was what I think, when Mark sort of brought that out to me, I was like, there's something about this guy that's teaching things that other people aren't teaching. And it was also the way that he talks with such conviction that this isn't just something that, you know, he's dabbled with. This is something that he knows as a fact. And the way he presents it is very authoritative and very convincing to me. And when you apply his work, you find that it does exactly what he says.
Thank you for that. Yes, no, absolutely. Like, I think being satisfied, like that there's something going on and that you're able to produce an effect and also make it somewhat objective by sharing it with other people. When I learned how to float someone just from very closely watching Mark's videos, and then I'd go up to someone and say, hey, bro, can you just stand there and put your hands out? Doodly doodly do. Next thing you know, he's like, whoa, wait a minute, what the heck's going on here? And it's like, oh, that's interesting. And then another person, and another person. Yeah, for me, being satisfied, very, very important. Okay, would anyone else like to jump in on this one? This is basically what has Franz Bardon, or also Mark Rasmus, brought to the table that maybe others haven't. So I'll just leave that one out there. Who would like to go next?
Yeah, I can go. Basically, I think similar to Aaron. You know, first of all, finding Franz Bardon's work was a huge relief. To fill that gap, that search was satisfied, and the feeling that there was no longer waiting for the guru to give me the next step, that it was all there. So that's a huge relief to have all that work there and know I just had to do it. Now it was just my self-responsibility to get on and do it. And then with Mark, I first met Mark in 2012. and that was huge because I'd been emailing Mark, and even emailing with Mark had already helped me with various challenges that I was having. And again, like Aaron said, it's like I was understanding things in my own way, but Mark comes along and gives you it in very plain language, very relatable language that I can understand. And then, of course, with that added body aspect, no longer is it just theory. You can go, well, this is what it feels like. This word means this. And then you can go, oh, and then, and this one means this. And then you can feel the difference and the quality difference between these terms that people throw around. So that was huge. So once you get a physical experience of these things, suddenly your ability to work with them increases, manyfold, almost immediately for me anyway, and I think for others. So I think that's the gift that Mark has given to many of us, is that he's made this stuff not theoretical or someday, one day. He's made it almost immediate when you work with someone who can work with the body.
Yeah, wonderful response. I really enjoy the body work actually, because I've got more juice to play with. There's more quantity, plenty of quality, but lots of quantity with doing the workouts and that. And thank you so much for that. Great response. And David, how would you comment on the question of what has Bardon, and I'm not sure if you're aware of Mark Rasmus's work, but how has Bardon sort of like brought things that others haven't to the table?
Well, I'm not aware of Mark's work very well. I'm not really aware of other people's work, unfortunately. But
Okay.
about Franz Bardon, there's just so much. But I would say, being brief, clarity, practicality, and a stripping away of a lot of the unnecessary ceremonial stuff. That's not really what Hermetics is really all about. Presenting Hermetics in a simpler, purer form than it had been before him. And in terms of what comes to mind right immediately is evocation. Like, he's the first person I think that I'm aware of. I haven't read everybody, but he's the first one that really tells you how to do it and explains what a successful evocation looks like. The rest of the stuff is very hidden until he comes along around evocation. It's very couched, and you're given the ceremonies and the rituals and all of the symbols and stuff in all of these grimoires, but nobody is actually talking about how it's done. And then he comes along and he puts it down in black and white for people. That was huge. And personally, for me, there was just this phrase, synthetic astrology, that was just like an igniting fuse for me. Personally, it just went boom. And I was like, what is that? That's what I'm doing, whatever it is. that's it, right? But it was just two words. So for me, that, for everyone else, just an immeasurable amount, I gotta say. Like, it's just immeasurable.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. I've got to say, like, there's so much depth in all of that set of books, and the books around it as well. Right, let's keep things shifting. So I've got sorry, I'm getting my live stream chops up while we're doing this. So the next person I'm going to pass this to is Victoria. What has Bardon and or Mr. Rasmus brought that you think others haven't?
So I'm aware of Mark Rasmus, but I haven't worked with any of his material yet. But I know he's had a fantastic influence on several of my magician friends and people I know. So I hope to meet him one day. I've had a couple dreams of him where his presence is just very awe-inspiring in my dreams. Every now and then you'll meet a person in real life too that you know is an addict, and just their presence alone kind of leaves you in awe, because you can observe that without them even having to say something. You just recognize someone as they are. But for Franz Bardon, something I kind of harp on over and over again is appreciating the self-initiatory path and putting everything in your own hands. I was part of a system and an egregore based out of Japan, very esoteric, very deep, energetic training. But eventually, and this was for lineage of like a samurai lineage. And eventually, my teacher, who also introduced me to Franz Bardon, told me that my path is that of the Ronin and not a samurai. So the Ronin is, in Japanese lore, basically a samurai without a lord. Like, you have to forge your own path. You have to do your own thing. So I had the experience of meeting great adepts and a grandmaster and teachers who could do amazing things, to have that exposure, but then realizing I have to go and forge my own path. Similarly, like Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, she's a very independent female archetype, and that archetype has always also been heavy in creating my own path and trajectory in life. Like, I grew up on an Indian reservation. I bust out of there. I made my own path through several different dimensions. And I like Bardon as someone who's interested in esoteric work because, again, it lets you put it all in your own hands. You don't have to be sitting at a temple or with the masters or with a certain community where you have gradual exposure where, okay, at 1 year you can go to the next degree. At the second year you can do this. Maybe after 5 years you can do that. With Bardon, it's really about your own chutzpah, your own application, your own desire, your own self-management. So what I like about that is you don't have to wait for anyone outside of divine providence giving you approval. If you take it upon yourself to do it, if you apply yourself, if you want it, you can work towards it, and you can cultivate everything that Bardon provides.
Wonderful response. Yeah, I love this sort of, I don't know. It seems like there's less middlemen involved with this path, if I say it like that. It's a very much about a direct connection, and it's wonderful. So yes, thank you. Wonderful response. And Bob, how would you respond to what has Mr. Bardon and or Mr. Rasmus offered that sets them apart from others? And I know obviously you have a deep connection with both of these people.
Yeah. We're really two things that, I agree with everyone else's points, by the way. Bardon provided structure and Mark provided a vocabulary. As a practitioner, we often run into these things where something happens, right? You're not exactly sure what it is. Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? Is this important? Is this something just kind of weird happening off here to the side? And Bardon provided the structure for how things fit together, but Mark had the ability to explain it. Okay, pour, breathe. All right, vital force. Okay, got it. Hold your breath. Wait. Oh, okay, astral energy. And that allows for people to understand the experience as it's happening. Whereas without that structure and vocabulary, things are really confusing and take a really long time to figure out. And, I think because of his background in teaching martial arts, Mark got very good at saying, don't do this, just do that. And that allowed for a real dialing down on, what are we really dealing with here? And for that, I'm grateful. I mean, Rasmus is ground zero for any number of modern high-level practitioners, including a lot of people out there who don't admit that he was their teacher.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that one man, operating where he is, has had that huge an influence on the community writ large, and for which I'm personally grateful, because my meeting with him was strictly karma. I live in the rural mid-Atlantic, which is a fancy way of stating in the middle of nowhere in the East Coast of the U.S. And the fact that he showed up in the nearest town to me doing a Qigong seminar in 2014 is just absolutely bizarre, so. But no, both instrumental and both providing a way of defining things that make them accessible. That's what I'd say.
Awesome. Great response. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think about my own connection with this all and just going, I just feel extremely blessed to have met and come across these incredible teachers. And the gravity of what some of these teachings offer is still astounds me to some days, there's no end of interest for these topics with me. Okay, let's do another audience question here. So now, obviously not everyone on the panel is necessarily a magician of sorts, but we could extend this to the Qigong and the vital energy stuff as well. And that is, and I'm going to throw this one too. How's the list looking here? Okay. So we're going to have to keep this one short, guys, because we're just about at the top of the hour. But best advice to a beginner starting out on the magic path. David, go.
Don't fret. Enjoy. Have fun. Make sure that every day you do it, it's not work. It's fun. Go to school like a kid. Have fun learning all the letters of the alphabet, all the numbers, all the things that you're bombarded with when you're young that you've got to learn really fast, along with how to walk and how to get along with other people. You're like 2 or 3 years old, I'm talking about here now, and suddenly they're bombarding you with all this stuff. You do it because you get through it because it's all fun. Take the child's heart and play with that. Go forward in your initiation with that.
Man, that needs to be encapsulated on a physical medium somehow. That was perfect. Thank you, bro. Okay, can I please, James, you're up next, brother. How would you answer this question of best advice to a beginner starting out on the path?
Okay. Well, in addition to what David said, absolutely keep it fun, keep it light. If it's light, it can be consistent. And I'd also say as well, keep your life in balance. Don't suddenly, start wearing purple cloaks and staying in your room all day, reading books. Get out, be amongst real people, be amongst people that also don't have anything to do with magic. And that will keep you engaged in real life, and I think keep your path balanced. It's amazing we all go down the rabbit hole, but I think it's also so important, especially for a young person, to keep their life on track and to ensure they don't end up at 45, 50 with lots of magical material and not much else.
Great response. Thank you for that. Victoria.
I would stay present to the process and don't focus on outcomes. The outcomes will come, but if you're too focused on achieving XYZ, you're missing being present in the process that happens. And also be patient with yourself. When you go beyond time and space, you can realize I have hundreds of thousands of incarnations, more or less. I have time. Meet yourself where you are. Give yourself grace. You are where you are, and your journey is yours. So you don't need to compare yourself to what someone else has achieved or what they're capable of. Look at what you are capable of and push yourself, but also appreciate that there is so much involved, and that you're doing it for you too. You're doing it for your own spirit's evolution, your own personal growth. You can be of benefit to other sentient beings at the same time while you're doing that. But again, just try to stay present to the process, because life is just made of several slices of moments that all build up to make outcomes.
Wonderful. Yeah, totally. It's a long, we're here for a good time, not a long time, but literally on the big span of things, we literally are here for a long time. So there's a long game. There's plenty of time to enjoy. Just to cover on what everyone said, fun, man, I tell you what, keep your life fun. You're going to be infecting other people with their fun too. So Aaron, now, how would you respond to this, but maybe with more of a Qigong or, anyway, I'll just leave it up to you, sir, because you might have your own school of magic. I don't know, man.
Well, I would just say that whether it's Qigong or Magic, I think a lot of people need to move away from the intellectual side of the study and actually getting into the practicality of it. A lot of people do a lot of reading. They do a lot of intellectual acrobatics with the stuff, but they don't actually apply it. And it's not until you start to apply the information that you've been learning that you'll actually start getting some real value out of it.
Yeah, great response. You're absolutely right. And it's so much more satisfying and meaningful. I mean, that's one of the reasons I enjoy doing the healing work, is because, you get to witness outcomes and then weigh them and go, hang on, this is a highly unlikely thing by conventional means. Isn't it curious? And so, yeah, totally, you're right. I mean, I've read a lot too, but when I started doing the stuff and the doors open, way more interesting, way more fulfilling. Bob, what about yourself, sir?
Two things. One, journal. There are things that in hindsight you will notice that are easy to forget in the moment when it happens. So having that written record there in your own hand keeps a lot of us from going, I imagined that. Yeah, but you wrote it down.
Yeah.
That's super important. To have a schedule that you follow. 30 minutes of regular practice every day, or even 15 minutes of regular practice every day at the same time over the course of a year, it just pays off in ways that 2 hours of practice irregularly generally don't. If you really think what we're doing represents reality, then there's a skill aspect. And, as everybody's here mentions, you got the rest of your life to work on this. Just make sure you work on it. Otherwise, things can be very confusing and kind of haphazard, I guess. The stuff I worked on regularly really paid off. Yeah, that's what I'd say. That's what I'd say for the most part.
Awesome. Yeah. And great question too, because, I think one thing that experience can bring to people who are looking to start out is like, man, I tell you what, you can save yourself a lot of time. I have to say, journaling, there's a reason why you see Thoth with a pen in his hand, man. This journaling process in and of itself for myself has unlocked some incredible perceptual capabilities. Now, okay, so that's pretty much us for the first hour. So please stick around, everyone, and we'll be carrying on here. But I just want to say that James and David will be exiting the stream, and so just quickly, James, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Now I'm going to give you the floor for a second, so you can do a bit of a plug. I'm going to put your website there. Would you like to share anything, any insights, any whatever you would like, sir?
Okay. Well, firstly, again, thank you, Phil, for putting this together. It's really nice to be on the first one. It'd be really nice to come back anytime you do the next one as well. And yeah, always good to hear from other practitioners with these questions as well. With Perseus, this we're in the sort of midst of rebuilding Perseus behind the scenes. So lots of new things coming to Perseus in terms of features and also content. On the blog. The blog, we're aiming to be 200 interviews this year in total from practitioners from various traditions, some well-known, some fairly unknown. So that's going to be amazing. In terms of courses, I mean, you heard a snippet from people earlier on what's coming. The 60 skills continues to sort of pan out in the 5-step plan we have there, and other things coming from David as well in terms of the astrology, and we have the internal arts, finally getting to share some of the internal arts and some of the methods that I've learned from being out here in Asia. So I'd say watch this space, subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to the newsletter. Don't worry, I won't spam you. Once a month I update people with what's happening, general news, general posts, and it's going to be an exciting year.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you, good sir, for joining us on this inaugural, is that word? Initial stream. And make yourself a beautiful, wonderful day, and no doubt we will talk again, sir. Stay well.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone. I will go and get my next coffee.
Sounds good. Awesome. Okay,
right,
David,
bye-bye.
thank you, sir, for joining us and sharing your wonderful wisdom. And I'd like to say this is the opportunity. Now, I didn't unfortunately get round to putting the other website up, but I will put your blogging website, the WordPress site, in the description afterwards. So is there anything you'd like to share and close up with? Any insights or otherwise? The floor is yours.
Thank you. It's been lovely to be here. Yeah, you can find people can also find there's a link to the archive, the blog at astralvisions.org. So they're connected together, so they can find them. All right. Yeah, there's just stuff bubbling right at the moment. There's just a lot of things happening for me that I'm developing all at once and working on. But ongoing every month, at the end of the month, there's a post of some kind related to magic and astrology, something that I come up with that month I write about. That's usually about 5,000 or 6,000 words. And, I've finally been persuaded by people that, people are losing interest in reading, and I don't want that to happen, so I've been resisting it, but I'm now going over to putting my message into other formats for people to consume and learn from as well. So that's what's going on. And I just would like to just say goodbye to everyone by encouraging them not to give up, to keep going, and to remember that it is a serious business. Like don't get me wrong, like initiation is why you're here, right? There's nothing more serious than why you came here. But have fun and enjoy it. It's meant to be fun and enjoyable, and it's meant to reveal just so much joy to you.
Oh wow, what a wonderful comment. Thank you so much. Thank you. And absolutely. So everyone can go and check out astralvisions.org in the meantime, and there'll be a link there to connect with the WordPress site. And thank you so much, David. I really appreciate you being here, and I just appreciate you in general and everything you bring to the table. So stay well, sir, and we'll no doubt connect again soon.
Thank you. Ciao.
Okay. All right, everybody. So we're stepping into the second hour here now. David, did you want to stick around? You can stick around for a minute.
I'm just gonna go. I just wanted to say goodbye to everyone privately and wish you all the best. And thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you, David. Good to see you.
Much love.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to bring in Phillip Harris-Smith, our next guest for the second hour, and let's bring him on. And there he is.
Hello.
Greetings, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Now, I just sort of lost my head for a second here, but what's been happening in your world, sir? And give us a bit of a nutshell of what's going on.
Well, this week I just finished the bulk of a book I've been tormented by, rather than writing, for about 3 or 4 years, but have only really made progress with it this year, called Enochian Hermetics. And the crux of it is that Enochian has, well, some of you may well already know this, but basically Enochian has a reputation to produce automatic evocatory effects, such that if someone who's no interest in any kind of spirituality reads it, they can feel a bit out of sorts. They may even have issues with low-level astral entities, poltergeists, stuff like that. They can be quite upset. And the language itself, according to the people who received it, is the language that was spoken by Enoch and may even have been spoken by Adam before the fall. So there's a lot of biblical stuff in there. And my interest in it was how it relates to Bardon's practice, or in other words, how we can apply some of the capabilities that Bardon has given us, which I didn't encounter in the rest of the Western tradition in any real degree, and how that can then be brought to bear on the Enochian language and Enochian magic. Because, of course, as Bardon points out, he has provided us with universal keys. So I wanted to put those universal keys with the Enochian, and that's really what I've been thinking about a lot for some time, and what I finally managed to express reasonably well this week. I sent it off, and it looks like Falcon are going to publish it at some point. So
Oh,
that's
wonderful.
what happened this week.
That's exciting. I want to read that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I hope you like it. It has it's caused me to tear my hair out on a few occasions.
Well, man, I tell you what, I've put a link there to Falcon Books Publishing underneath, so everyone can go and check that out. And thank you so much for
I've got
being
my
here.
iPad on the arm of the sofa, which is why I'm wobbling around. Sorry. There you go.
Oh man, I feel like I'm at sea.
Sorry, mate.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay, well, we're just going to jump straight in, and I've got a question for the panel here, and we're going to start with let's start with Aaron. Aaron, how does improving oneself help others, or help the situation? Even how does it improve things? What, in your view?
So improving excuse me, improving yourself tends to giving yourself self-love. And when you can love yourself, it's a lot easier to love other people. Because I find that sometimes when people have maybe disappointments in their life, things like that, they really hold on to them for a long time. And it gives them that sense of lack of worth. And they don't even realize that lack of worth comes across when they're dealing with other people. And the more that we can love and we can be in the same space as other people, the more that we can communicate and share our interactions.
Wonderful, great response. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful. Victoria, how would you respond to that? How does improving oneself help others or the situation in general?
So there's a lot of facets you can go into it. Say, for example, you are having an interaction with a person, and if you've improved yourself, your responses to them can change the karmic dynamic. You can decide, depending on your constitution, your qualities, interacting with another person's constitution and qualities, whether negative or positive. If you are in a higher vibration, you've improved yourself, you are preventing another person from getting into other states, negative regressive states, just by embodying a higher vibration within yourself. It can help someone else when you're interacting with them to be more solid and balanced and stable, and maybe help them rather than them feeding into negative states of being. Also, improving yourself, transforming yourself kind of ripples out. So when you think about, just on individual level, you are changing the energetic environments that you are exposed to. And if you think on some level, humanity is connected to one degree or another. As you are raising yourself, there's like a web metaphysically where you help kind of bring everyone else up as well, or the people within your domain, your community, your friends or family. If you are in a strong place and you are raising yourself up, everyone that's connected to you via a web, energetic web, depending on the depths of those connections, you're also influencing them to help bring them up. And then that spans out to the people that they are connected to as well. So, it's cliche, one person can change the world, but it's like just by you taking responsibility for how you show up and how you are, you can change people. But then also give yourself grace. None of us are Jesus or Buddha. None of us are perfect. We don't embody the best of ourselves every day. But as you strive to have that cultivation of nobility, as Bardon says, like ennoblement of character, that does ripple out and affect creation and the people in your life.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, and I think too that when I pose this question, improving oneself could probably be taken a bunch of different ways. And I mean, you could be increasing your internal capacities for various things that essentially, I mean, this is probably me answering the question here, but I found that as I work through this, particularly the Hermetics, initiation into Hermetics material, and do the Qigong work, and just realize is basically myself to go around to help and hook people up, and so, yeah, I'm going to pass this one off to Phillip next. Phillip, tell us, how would you read into this one, sir? How does improving oneself and whatever action, however, how does that sort of help improve things writ large?
Well, I think that you've got kind of like the sort of psychological perspective, but then you've got the more hermetic one. So from the psychological perspective, if you manage to if you properly address the opportunities you're given and manage, sometimes the bum cards that life deals you, that can not only help you, but it can by observation by others, they can see how you're managing, and it almost unconsciously inspires them. But that's more of a to me that's more of a psychological or social phenomenon. With Hermetics, when you progress with the art or with Hermetics, that has a much more powerful effect on you, and it in terms of how it helps other people, you have to really share what your difficulties were, I would say, because they may be having those difficulties but not be prepared to admit them, or not even be fully aware of them. So if you point out a difficulty that you had, they won't even need to admit that they won't even need to admit that they've had struggled with that or are struggling with that, and they don't need to. It should make no difference to you, but they can then almost vicariously learn from whatever mistakes you have made, whilst at the same time profiting from your successes. So in that way, there's I think there's a need to maintain a certain humility about what you do, and be prepared to show where you have been in error, so that other people may learn from your errors and not make the same ones. That would be my suggestion.
Great response. Yeah, I think I think about going down the beach and hanging out with all my older friends and watching them make asses of themselves and go, okay, so when you do this, that happens, or I don't want that. Like you see that they did this and then that happens. It's like, man, that's sweet. So bless those guys, those meatheads, best friends I ever had. Right now, Bob, this is one for you, sir. How does improving oneself and whatever action or facet that means help improve others or the situation at large?
This goes along with what Phillip just said. There's an interesting phenomena with long-term practitioners where you gradually lose all your bad habits. Now, this isn't a quick process. It takes years. But when that happens, you end up treating other people better. And even, how do I say this? Because they're treated better, everything works out. They don't necessarily care that, this was something generated by your particular practice. They're just on the receiving end of far more beneficent behavior from you, and that makes their life easier. And again, it's an odd thing. Sometimes this is called the process of ennoblement. Hermeticists like these lofty kinds of terms, but regardless of the source, when I quit acting like a jackass, other people benefit from my not losing my temper or doing weird things or being agitated all the time. And that makes their life easier. I'm not even getting into doing hands-on healing or magic to help them. Just that general process of acting like a decent person really pays off for other people. And I've seen that process play out so many different times with people who had really serious problems that, at this point, I just tell people, keep going. Just keep practicing, keep going, things will work out. And that's not to say they work out in a way that you really want them to, but they generally do. And that's, yeah, I guess that's really all I can really say about that, Phil.
Wonderful, thank you for that. And yeah, I think you know, it was a pretty open, sort of wide question, that one. It could have been taken a bunch of ways, but you guys all gave really beautiful, wonderful input for that. Right, let's do an audience question. So as mentioned before, I'll just throw this out to the panel, and you guys can answer it as you will. And so I'm actually just going to duck away for like 2 minutes, and then I'll be back. So I'm going to let you guys run the hen house for the moment. So the question I'm going to put up on the screen here is from Scott Anderson, and he's got 2 questions here. So I'm going to pass this one to Victoria to start with. What is the greatest gift that one person can give to another? And I'm just going to disappear, and I'll be back in a sec.
All right, put the pressure on me. I think the greatest gift that you can give another person is acceptance and holding space for them. You know, I think a lot of people just want to be seen, want to be heard, want to be able to express their various states of being, you know, whether it's happiness, joy, sadness, and just, I think, simply holding space for them, allowing them to be who they are in whatever form of expression they are, accepting it, not judging it. I think that is incredibly liberating for people, especially in a society where people may judge or project, this is okay, that's not okay. I accept these parts of you, but not these parts of you. You know, I have these conditions, you know, those are human nature things, but to the extent you can expand yourself and the space you hold for others, and that you accept them as the sentient beings they are and how they choose to express themselves, and that they are having this human experience, and recognizing that and seeing them. You know, people want to be seen. I think that's a great gift you can give them. If I had 1 minute and knew the whole world was listening, what would I say? I would say, okay, I'll try to fit as much into what one minute might be. I would say to love God, or a variation of that, Buddha, the creator. Be present, be thankful for your life experiences. Recognize that your life is yours and everyone else is their life. And to what I initially said, give people space to live their lives as well, but also appreciate everyone has their path, journeys, but they're still individuals going through their own experiences just as they are. So hold space similarly as you might for a friend, to strangers as well. And that's my response.
Wonderful, thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to throw this one over to Bob next. Bob, you've just been, but we're going to ping you again. What is the greatest gift that one person can give to another?
Give them some of your time. You know, things come and go. At the end of the day, I don't think anybody goes to their deathbed thinking, man, that Bugatti was the, you know, high point of my life. I think it was probably the time you spent on the front lawn with your mother, or, you know, the time you held someone's hand when they were suffering, that is ultimately the biggest gift you can give them. I would also say, if the war was listening for 1 minute, keep going. You know, whatever it is you're doing, just keep going. Things tend to work out as long as we don't stop. And giving up is a hard place to get out of if it happens. So even if you're just putting, you know, 1 centimeter in front of another towards whatever you're working on, that will ultimately get you where you need to go. So yeah, but that's pretty much what I'd say.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, I heard a great quote, and the next person will resonate with this as well. As what is it? Everything works out in the end. If things aren't working out, it's not yet the end. Aaron, how would you answer this? What is the greatest gift that one person can give to another?
So the greatest gift I feel that I can give other people is my full and undivided attention. And just when I'm speaking to them, really listening to them and just giving them, like Bob said, giving them your time and allowing them to feel that you're actually giving them time to whatever they need to say. And if there was 1 minute left and the whole world was listening, I'd say that we just need to be accepting of other people's beliefs, challenges, and other people's perceptions, because we all don't have the same perception, because we've all grown up in different ways and have different challenges. So we just need to be accepting of what other people have come through, and they might not see things the same way we do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Philip, what in your respect, and how would you respond to this question?
Well, with the gift to another person, I think, and I've come across this a few times, both ways, me and other people, allow them to be surprised that you haven't judged them for something that they were expecting to be judged for, and are usually judged for in general, and allow them to be surprised that they are not being judged for that, whatever it is. And the second thing about the world, I think that the COVID stuff pointed very strongly in the direction for that, because certainly around where I live, people suddenly realized that all these things that they cared about in whatever occupation they had were largely nonsense, and that they hadn't spent enough time with their daughters, their wives, their husbands, their fathers, mothers, whatever. And when the COVID thing disappeared, much to the annoyance of many of our politicians here in the UK, people didn't go back to doing the things they used to do, even if they didn't have much money because of that. In other words, they began to realize that their social relationships were more important than the target a company has set you, or even a target that you have set yourself, which actually was really not a very important thing, and you misjudged what should be important and what shouldn't be. So I'm afraid that's more of a psychological kind of answer. I admit that, but I think that there's a spiritual value in it as well, that you need to just not judge others so readily, such that they realize you're not. And also for people to just forget about all the surface guff, and look at what they really care about and start addressing that. Because then when they do come, as Bob pointed out, to the ends of their life, they won't be in their last moments filled with the kind of regrets that perhaps they could be.
Wonderful
It's
response.
just a thought.
No, lovely. Thank you. And just for myself, I find that the if I keep working on myself and find ways to improve my sort this fella out, then people get a better aspect of me, and I see that reflected. It was like when I was a muso, people are like going, "Yeah, bro, you're really good." When I started out, like they were being kind. And then when I started getting some chops, they're like going, "Oh, bro, yeah, that's looking good." And it's like going, "Okay, I'm starting to read these cues now. I've got a metric in the external there to see how my improving is going." But yeah, when I'm seeing people around me, even in these hard times, people are smiling, having a good time, and making best with what they got at any given time. Yeah, that's good. So for me anyway, Aaron. The current modern age brings a unique set of challenges that can hinder progress for practices of whatever. What is something you have personally come up against and overcome or are working on? And how are you doing it or did it? So in a thing like, things are different, say, than maybe our old teachers had to deal with. We have, a different type of cultural, geographic, time, space context for dealing with things. But yeah, I mean, I've pumped a whole bunch of stuff there, so just pick out what you want to comment on and go for it.
So we're living in a digital age, and everybody's got their phones. We've got streaming. We've literally everything's video content. Everything's delivered, and I often find that we can get lost in the information again, of just consuming lots of information, but not actually putting it into practicality again. So for me, it has been finding some information that I'm interested in, turn off, apply that information, see if it is going to work, and if it does or not, then you can go back, rather than just keep researching, finding all of this stuff, basically taking up all of your time, but really not getting anywhere with anything that's actually going to work or actually make your life better.
Yeah, great response. I'm very lucky to be in connection with an ex-student of Mark Rasmus who lives just north of me. He's an undercover brother, but he's even like, yeah, bro. He says, once you found out what you want to do, everything else is noise. Clean signal, put it on tracks, go that way. Everything else is whatever, and then fully embody that. But you're right. Yeah. So much potential distraction. Okay, and I'm going to spin this one to Bob as well. Bob, what do you think are some of the unique challenges that we face in this age?
Media and distraction. I mean, I'll agree with Aaron on that one. It's all of this stuff is designed on some level to excite people, and that makes it hard to actually pay attention. And as some people here know, my old job I used to refer to as either the magical or horrible time machine, depending upon, where they had to send me. So it's also important to keep in mind to be grateful for the things that we don't have to deal with. Generally speaking, everyone here, if you turn on the tap and drink a glass of water, you're not worried about contracting cholera.
Yeah.
If you need something to eat, finding food, whether it's what you really want or not, generally isn't much of a problem. And it's hard to, when you have enough of everything, it's easy to lose an appreciation for that. And that loss of appreciation can lead you down some really weird holes, basically. So, just it's hard to be grateful for everything we have, because most people have what they need fundamentally to survive these days. Whereas in the past, that was very much not true. And so that reinforces that whole ability to be distracted, because you're not focused on going, all right, we've got 3 days of rice left in the house. There isn't any left in the whole county. How do I go get more rice? It's not a problem for most people here. Yeah, it's that whole, how do I say this, drowning in a sea of possibilities, and so you never get around to actually working on something in particular.
Mm.
I would also say that, and I think this is related to that, most people come to Magick, from what I've seen, because they've got a problem that needs solving. If your life is perfectly healthy and perfectly happy, and you've got a great job and you've got a great family and you don't have any real problems, Magick is usually not something people gravitate towards. And so it's also important to keep that in mind when you go down this path, that other people may not care simply because they're in a good place. And it's not my place to force that issue on them. I don't know, maybe that's a ramble, but that's just an observation I've often come across.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Beautiful. Victoria, the current modern age brings a unique set of challenges that can hinder progress for practices and just life in general. How would you comment on this from your own experience, and anything else you would like to add?
I'm going to take this from a different angle. When you think about it from your spirit's perspective, we are in modern society, so we have to navigate modern society, with our Walmarts and Targets and drive-throughs and taxes and corporations and school system, our highways. We're not in an age where one can, while it still exists, where you can go train as a monk, or, be a priestess of a Greek temple, as a layman, your identity as an internal practitioner is not necessarily your identity in the external world. You might be an accountant or a lawyer or a mechanic, but privately be a magician or an adept and working on yourself. So I think kind of the modern age and the way society is set up, unless you have circumstances or situations where you can remove yourself from some of the societal roles, go train in temples and with teachers and in monasteries. I think I can speak from my personal perspective that one of the challenges is maintaining a layman life, and not having anything external that may validate or reaffirm my inner identity as a practitioner. But then internally, I continue to work on that and cultivate that as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, there is this long-term perspective of like, we're here for whatever we're here for, and how do we play it? Like we get to a certain point in life and we see the distractions and the what's on offer, and we've got to make choices because we've only got so many hours in this meat body, however long that is for each one of us. Sorry, I may have completely gone off what you said there, but Phillip, tell us, what can you see as regard as unique challenges for these modern times?
Well, I was thinking about this actually a couple of years ago and talking about it a lot, and I haven't really developed my views much more than that, which is, if you look at, I'm not a Hindu, obviously, but they have this view of different ages, the age of iron, silver, bronze, gold. And they use the analogy of the cow and how many legs it's got. So with the darkest age, the cow only has one leg. And that's all about, people desperately trying to eat and not get killed. And power is, might is right type of sort of world. And that's a world that used to be the situation, certainly here in Europe and UK and Europe in general, and it has, for the time being, receded somewhat. Hopefully for a long time, but who can say how destiny will turn? And according to that model, and I really do like it, we would be in a situation now where this Hindu cow has two legs up, so it's kind of half in half, and I think we do see that the life is a lot less brutal and desperate compared to what it was a few centuries ago. But the problem now, as and this is why it really attracted me, is the truth and lies issue. What's true, what isn't? When are we being gaslighted? When aren't we? What's real? What's just conspiracy? When are we believing nonsense? When are we seeing what's actually true? That seems to be the issue now. It certainly, and I think that feeds into the online stuff. You go online and you get a news thing, but then another news organization says they're lying, and then another news thing says, well, they're both lying. So you don't. So which thing is true then? Because they've all contradicted each other. I'm sure we've all come across that. So there's this, and in the spirituality side of things, that's where we have to address the real. I'm gonna, if I may, and by all means stop me at this point if you want, Phil. I'd like to just have a very brief anecdote of what happened to me on a bus with my late wife one time about the real and the unreal.
Go for it.
So basically, we were on a bus. We'd come back from Egypt, where we'd been staying for it was 4 or 5 months, because it was actually our honeymoon, because we got married when we were working. So we were coming back, and I was obviously a bit jet lagged, and the airline food, and I was on this coach going back to Cardiff with Jan, and Jan went. We stopped at a service station, and Jan went down to the restroom, and I'm sitting there, and this girl, a young girl, she'd got on. She was just jumping one town, so she got on, and she was made up. She was obviously going to go out with her friends for the night, and because I was so fatigued. Do you know how you sort of blink when you're fatigued and things look different? Have you ever had that when you've suffered fatigue and all of a sudden you blink and everything around you looks slightly different for a moment? I don't know if you've had that, but what I saw, and this isn't a judgment on that girl, is she looked like that female Shrek from the Disney, the Disney thing. It's just like a flick like that. And then she went back to just being this girl again. And I didn't know anything about her. I certainly didn't feel any enmity towards her. And I think if I were to guess, I think that she was probably going through a very materialistic and perhaps slightly crass episode in her life. And that's her choice. So I'm not judging her either. But what my wife told me is then that's the difference between the real and the unreal. And sometimes it just jumps out on you, and your mind doesn't process it properly, so it processes it in a different way. And I think that and all the truths and the half truths and the agendas that we get online is perhaps the challenge that we have, and that challenge also affects us in our Hermetic work as well. And that is a very broad and diffuse answer, for which I'm very sorry, but it's the only thing I could think of.
I love it. I think, like I have some core points to orbit around, but look, hey, just go nuts, anecdotes, tangents, whatever, it's all good. And so thank you for that, sharing that. These are, people will be taking value from this, maybe not today, maybe in another day. And so with that said, I've got a short section here that I'm calling quick fire pro tips. And so these are like punchy short phrase responses, guys. And this one's a general one. And this is leans towards more of not so much what to do, but what not to do. So I'd love it if everyone on the panel could give us a short response, and we'll start with Bob on this one. Something you have found to be very unhelpful with practice, and why? And it could be anything from food item, substance, social activity, previously enjoyed but conflicting pastime. Bob, what can you tell us?
As one of my teachers and good friends once said, always wear pants. It doesn't matter how amazing your esoteric ability and or experience is, if you're standing on a street corner with no pants on and you're trying to explain this to somebody. All your basics in life you need to handle first. Right. Hygiene, sleep, diet, avoiding your bad habits, making a living. All of this self-actualization stuff comes downstream from that. So, if things aren't working and you're trying to do something magically, take a look at, the more mundane stuff like, oh yeah, I haven't gotten more than 4 hours of sleep in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't had a bath in 3 days. Maybe that'll, straighten everything out. Always wear pants.
Always wear pants. Great. That could be a new meme, I think. Now, Aaron, you're up next, sir. Something you have found to be very unhelpful with practice.
Holding the breath unconsciously. Noticing things that we hold our breath when we maybe take a seat, when we're signing a check, when we get a little bit fearful, we don't even realize that we're unconsciously holding the breath. And I find that if we can tap into that breath and be a little bit more conscious about our breathing, it tends to have an exponential effect of relaxing the body, relaxing the mind, and making things easier.
Great response. When I was a guitar teacher, the kids, I'd have this alien thing in their hands and they would hold their breath. And it's like when they started to learn to relax, that's when the music came out. And so many transferable analogies from being a music teacher. Right, Victoria. Dear Victoria, something you have found to be very unhelpful with practice.
I would say taking anything someone says as gospel. Don't accept things just because they said it. Really come to your own conclusions. I'm a huge advocate of people finding their own path, crowdsource information and learnings from other people, other traditions. But use your own critical thinking skills. Just because a book says everything, don't mold yourself to everything that book says. You know, any tradition, any kind of magic book, inner development work, you know, bring yourself to it as well and be a living tradition between who you are and whatever information you're learning.
Wonderful. Yes, self-determination. And there's always bits of data coming at you. Everyone loves to tell you what they're thinking, and you know, we do with that what we will. But yeah, wonderful response. Thank you. Philip, something you have found to be very unhelpful in practice, etc., etc., etc.
Don't do the lesser banishing with banishing pentagrams twice a day. Within 6 weeks, you'll end up Billy No Mates.
Fair enough. Okay. That's some top tier advice there, Pete.
Yeah,
So
do an invoking one at least 50% of the time.
okay, well, that's good. Okay, well, there's some in-depth combo there. Right, beautiful. Okay, and right, something. Okay, for myself, I'll just respond and sleep cycles. Get your sleep routines right, and life is so much easier. I've just found that, especially in my later years when I was a muso and staying up all funky hours. That wasn't so hard, but nowadays I'm in my sort of mid 40s, and I've got to say, man, if I get my sleep right, man, I'm firing on all cylinders. Okay, right, let's do another audience question here. Sorry, did I ask everyone? Let's see, tick, 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 tick. Yep, perfect. Okay, if I'm wrong, anyone in the panel just shout out, "Oi, Phil," like that. Now here we go. So this one it's towards Bob, but I know that Aaron and well, anyone can answer this one. So this is to do with the best ways to train fascia and tendons, and how do we know if we're doing it right? So this is not just in regards to health and fitness on a physical level. This is to do with basically working the Magick energy pipes. So Bob, would you like to start with this one?
The most efficient way I've found is actually the rebounding exercises. Run an energy, bounce other people off you. But this is just because you're using a large weight that's living and momentum and velocity. So it's recruiting a massive amount of that tissue. The hard part with it is you need training partners, and those training partners have to know how to do the exercises and so on and so forth. So if you can't do that, I would say some form of whole body exercise that puts a decent weight relative to your capability on your body. So, this is the reason why I'm a fan of barbell training and things like Olympic weightlifting, because you can titrate that dose so it doesn't hurt you, right? And it's something that you can do on your own. But in general, anything that stresses the body as a unit while you're running in energy is going to greatly enhance not only the development of the fascia and tendons and whatnot, but your ability to run the energy writ large. And keep in mind, this is how most traditional athletes work. It's just they're not doing this as a magical practice. And they get really, really, really good at it. The advantage with what a lot of people do here is you have the ability to consciously tune what force you're going to work with, whereas most people do that passively. So, but that's my advice. Train something that trains the whole body as a unit, whole body movement, that applies weight to the body, and that will drive that soft tissue to develop.
Wonderful, thank you. Aaron, would you like to chime in on this one?
As Bob was saying before, to train the fascia, there's some sort of connection when the body needs to have some sort of tension. And for me, it's inadvertently doing kettlebell training over the years has produced really strong fascia and tendons in myself. And I think it's just got to do with the nature of the exercises with the kettlebell, the shape, and just doing exercises that are non-linear. You tend to just develop your body in different ways. And I find that the shape of the kettlebell really impacts the fascia of your body with that constant impact. And I feel it's the closest thing to me of when you do a hard kettlebell session of almost having a kickboxing fight, by just getting that total taxing of the body, taxing of the fascia, taxing of the lungs, and that amount of tension or just activity that you do gives you feedback of when you recover to get stronger, increasing that fascia. So I just say literally, like Bob said, doing some Olympic weightlifting, isometrics, anything that's just going to put your body under some tension, and really not worrying about using the muscles as such, but learning how to actually activate the nerves through using your mind rather than just how to describe it. Rather than just physically squeezing, you sort of got that mind-body connection and really putting everything into it, if that sort of makes a bit of sense.
Wonderful, thank you. Victoria or Philip, would you guys like to comment on this?
I'm not really, I mean, I just do low impact exercise and have a healthy diet. So I'm afraid this is outside of my area of expertise.
Yep, no worries, no worries. All right, cool as. Okay, let's bring in another question then that's definitely up your alleyways, Mr. Philip and Miss Victoria. Let's go here. Right, here we go. Okay, here we go. In fact, this is a good size one for a few people. Any tips on working with spirits to gain more understanding and or knowledge about a given subject matter? Question for Philip and or Bob and Victoria. I know you're into this too, so I'll start this one off with Victoria. Would you like to comment on this?
So first, Michael, I'm not sure if you have any experience with invocation itself. Kind of lower access techniques that you can do is automatic writing or pendulum work. But you really get more of the understanding and knowledge when you are able to directly connect with a spirit, invoke them, and have a communication with them, and either be able to see them clairvoyantly, hear them clairaudiently, and feel them clairsentiently. And I really love practice of magical evocation because the spirits in there are very informative, generally very helpful, and they cover so many different subjects, so many subject matters. This morning I invoked a spirit, the seventh spirit of Mercury, who has to deal with fate and some other things. And each spirit is an expertise in these different aspects of creation, but it comes down to really your ability to be able to contact them and know which spirit you're contacting for what they specialize in. And I'll give a little plug for Bob here. It was his mental wandering course in 60 skills that really helped me access invocation and began exploring basically being able to contact spirits. Being able to mental wander is one form of being able to go out, find spirits, connect with them. Also, if you have their seal or sigil, via mental wandering, you can contact them either by bringing them into your mental body or traveling to their domain and talking with them.
Wonderful, thank you for that. And Philip, any tips on working with spirits to gain more understanding and or knowledge about a given subject matter?
Well, as Victoria pointed out, the essence initially is contact. So it depends. Again, it depends on the level of training that the hermeticist has. I would actually recommend something that isn't within the Bardon corpus, Pope Runyan's Dark Mirror method. If you've got a magical colleague or magical partner, one of you can act as the conjurer, the seer, in fact, and the other can act as the scribe. That's very good for early contact. In terms of content, I would say that the quality of the content from various GNI spirits, whatever taxonomy you may prefer, depends on the level of theurgy that you can achieve. So the more divine you can bring yourself to. So, for example, the one we're surely all familiar with is Franz Bardon's Godhead state, which he sort of introduces in step 9. and the pinnacle is in step 10 of initiation into Hermetics. If you can achieve that level of connection with divine providence, you'll find that the genii or the spirit is very accommodating towards you. Whereas if you aren't in that state of being, your information that will be obtained from any given being from another plane of existence is going to be of a lower quality. And it's very interesting that the way this is done. When I was doing grimoire work many years ago, I get what seemed a perfectly satisfactory response from the spirit or the genii or the angel. But then when I worked with that same being via Franz Bardon's practice of magical evocation, the same question produced far greater value in terms of content. So basically, it seems to me that these discarnate entities will tune the response to your level of progress. So you can gain an understanding, but only as far as you have reached in your Hermetic training. They will, and I've found discussing online and also socially with other people that they found a similar thing. The genii or the angel or whatever it may be will answer your questions, and then you've got the theurgy much better developed, and they give you an answer to the same question that is far better and much more useful than the original answer, which at the time seemed perfectly fine to you. So the crux, I think, for gaining an understanding and knowledge is to really get good, if you pardon the expression, with the theurgy, with the Godhead work. And I would say that is but you know, in the modern day, ways of contacting different genii and spirits seems to be getting gradually easier. And as I say, I really did some great work with Pope Runyan's Dark Mirror method early on. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now, I'm just going to say, Aaron, you're going to disappear on us in a sec. So I want to just say thank you so much for joining us and bringing your depth of wisdom and experience to the panel here. And I want you to give us a quick plug for all your goodies and stuff, if you could.
So I just want to say thanks, Phil, for literally bringing us all together here. It's been fantastic, and I can't wait to do this again. And just everybody out there, just don't give up. Whatever you're pursuing, just keep doing it, because persistence and determination will get you there. And thanks everyone for just being here and joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate you joining us. Have a beautiful, wonderful, amazing rest of your weekend. And cheers, Copper.
We'll talk again soon, guys. See everybody.
Sweet, man. See ya.
Right.
Okay. All right. Now we are. Oh, hang on. Now that the things are shrunk, I have to make Bob fit. For some reason, Bob's camera does funny things, so I can fix that by doing that. Now, okay. So, Bob, this question is also for you, sir. Any tips on working with spirits to gain more understanding, etc.?
Find a method that allows for the clearest communication you're capable of. You know, whether that's mental wandering, the mirror work, things like the crystal method, you know, scrying using a ball, whatever allows for a clearer transmission. Absolutely. The point about the Godhead, absolutely true too. You know, the spirits reflect off of us. So, you know, where we're at in life has a lot to do with what they're going to tell you. But the only main thing I would say is vet any information you get before you take action on it. I mean, listen, I can run into a guy on a street corner who's going to give me a great stock tip, right? Maybe it is, or maybe it's not. You know, my Uncle Bob was a drunk who beat his wife and beat his kids when he was alive. He's not any wiser now that he's dead. So, you know, if you're going to take action on something, make sure you evaluate it first, because some of our friends in the New Age community can be a little gullible, and that can lead you to some interesting places as is dealing with weirdos in real life can lead you to some interesting places. So just before you decide to do something, change your life, run off to the monastery in the Himalayas or whatever it is, definitely evaluate the information you're being given before you take action on it.
Great response. Yeah, as always, guys, like whatever's coming in, give it that second look. Now, I've got another question here for Phillip specifically. Now, we are coming to the top of the hour, and if anyone needs to scarper off, that's all good. Just let me know in the private chat. But Phillip, any plans to write a book on evocation and or alchemy in the future?
Well, I wrote a book on spagyrics and Enochian magic many years ago. You should be able to find that online, or I can post a PDF of it to somewhere. Alchemy, yes, because the metal oils or the sulfurs, I do, in my view, find are very useful for visible appearance in a triangle of art, and they make it a lot less arduous. However, at the moment, I'm still finishing off this book I've been working on, Enochian Hermetics, which is to apply Bardon's disciplines and methodology to the Enochian language and the Enochian magic system. And I need to get that finished fully and edited, and there's a couple bits that I've got to add in that I didn't realize I had to add in and stuff like that. So yes, but not yet. Sorry.
Oh, that's all
I
good.
could always write a few articles and stick them in Perseus or something like that, as long as Perseus doesn't mind. They don't always necessarily take what I offer, but I could perhaps put something like in there that's very boiled down as an interim. That would be a thought.
Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And what out of all the skills, since we're all pretty much we can just basically talk Bardon and maybe a little bit of Erasmus here too, but what is a particular skill that you have personally found that offered greater navigation, adaptability, and or resilience to sort of help with the ever-changing landscape? So, out of all of if we just look at initiation into Hermetics, and beyond that, I guess, what is something you've found to be of particular value that you might even suggest, you don't maybe need prerequisites for it? I don't know. I'm just going to put this out there because this is like the hot tips thing for people who are listening. So, Bob, would you like to go first on this one?
Yeah. I mean, there are two that come to mind. The Ermine Mountain Sudden Enlightenment School, Buddha's Diamond Palm work, the really aggressive breath retention, generates all kinds of benefits, both physically and otherwise, energetically, that are super, super helpful. If you're really willing to go down the rabbit hole, in terms of physical practices, Shi Shui Gung's probably top in terms of what you're going to get out of it physically and reinforcing the body energetically. I've just run into way too many Chinese guys in their 80s and 90s doing that, who are walking around like normal people when that normally doesn't happen. Now, that may simply be because of the improvements to the endocrine system that it largely provides, so the body never gets old. But as one of my teachers once said, and I'm a bad example of this, you can't beat the monkey and the monkey is you. So as long as your body is working properly, your magic is probably going to work properly too. But if your body's not working properly, your magic's definitely going to be compromised.
Okay, great. Okay, Victoria, what is a particular skill you have personally found that offered greater navigation, adaptability, resilience? I don't know. Yeah, it's a hot tip for the crowd, perhaps.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I would say observation and presence. So being able to observe phenomena and not necessarily react to it, but just observe, and maintain your own sovereignty and centeredness and witnessing phenomena and not getting lost in the flow, not falling asleep in everything that's unfolding. And then also presence kind of mirrors that, remembering, at any moment. And are you being preoccupied by different things, or are you just being present? Chop wood, carry water. You do that before enlightenment, after enlightenment. But that's also one of the advanced steps in Franz Bardon's system, but a very basic step in, say, Buddhist systems. You are using your spirit and your faculties to do all of that at once. So, as you're chopping wood, you're present to chopping wood. Your spirit is chopping wood, So a lot of that is about presence and also just being aware, observation, being conscious of things that are happening. I think one thing about resilience too, kind of with the observation, is acknowledging everything arises and falls. So as you find yourself in different states, resilience is finding your center regardless of how phenomena is manifesting. So you can observe, I'm in these different waves and states of phenomena, but you have resilience by remembering, where's my center in all of this? All of, there's always going to be storms or beaches around you or clouds. But the resilience is kind of returning to your Akashic point, or your non-dual light point, or just your center, your elemental equilibrium. And from that, you have resilience because you can identify anything you're going through as just transitory phenomena. So that, again, is kind of like the not over identification as well. But that also enhances your resilience.
Fantastic. Yeah. And, if you're able to just sort of like witness things without being sort of motivated or driven by them, being influenced from them, it's a very powerful thing, especially with just like there's a full-on battle out there for our awareness and our consciousness, like to get it to drive you to do things, right? And so being able to walk through the battlefield of like information coming from every angle and just sort of passes through or bounces off you, I found that to be very helpful. I share that with a lot of people too. So that would be my one, would be just that, even that first exercise in the initiation into Hermetics, just being able to see something and go, look, there's a thing, and not having a reaction to it. I mean, that's nowadays seeing what I see in the hood, man, that would go down well with a lot of people. So that's what I share. There's a particular skill you have personally found that offered greater navigation, adaptability, and or resilience on your journeys?
I'll keep it quick because I think my internet keeps dropping out. I think that, and I'm going to stick with the Bardon stuff here because that really did bring things to a focus when I finally got into it. The consciousness of the spirit in step 6, where you get the mental, astral, and physical in alignment, and that was quite distinctive. And although I've seen it discussed in other things, I've never seen any actual practice and also I didn't understand its value until I did it as well. And it really is something that all of a sudden changed the paradigm and produced a very powerful direction. And actually, if I may, I'd like to ask anyone who's got a martial arts background, something that is very curious about that. And I don't expect an answer, but I'll ask the question anyway. In martial arts, as far as I understand it, and it's been decades since I did any, you have these things called kata, which are regularized movements. And these produce what could be termed a muscle memory or a cognitive expectation. And you can end up doing them in a way that without even thinking. Would that be a reasonable, if layperson's description of kata? If so, anyone who's a martial artist, please nod. And based on that question, I was thinking about this 3 consciousness in the spirit of the senses in the spirit, and I was wondering if this is something that martial artists did. There you are. That was my question. I know I'm supposed to be answering questions, but that was a question.
I love it. You're changing it around. It's shaking things up. All right, Bob or Victoria, would you like to comment on Philip's question? Comment there.
Sure. I mean, in my martial arts training, there was the senses involved. You know, being able to feel things or see things,
Yeah,
or
but
even
did you do something like consciousness of the senses in the spirit, like Bardon Step 6? So, in other words, what I'm driving at. Sorry to interrupt, but I just trying to focus the question. A kata is automatic, as far as I can tell. Well, it becomes automatic. It's in some way for the person who's been practicing it possibly thousands of times, and then they can just do it almost without thinking. And that means that their thinking can be something else, which is what I think you're driving at. But I'm wondering if the martial artists do something very similar to or exactly the same as Bardon's consciousness of the senses in the spirit. And if not, is there a particular reason why it's not appropriate and that you've never come across it? And I know that's a very narrow question, perhaps an unfair question, but I pose it nevertheless.
I'm just going to just quickly jump in and say Mark Erasmus talks a lot about fusing the three bodies.
Oh, really?
He talks about this quite a bit. So Bob or Victoria, you can carry on here.
Oh, I'm not familiar with Mark Rasmus's process, but I think it would depend on the tradition. What I witnessed from my exposure to internal martial arts, which was the Chinese internal martial arts of Xingyi, Pakua, Kung Fu, and Tai Chi Chuan, is sometimes those would just manifest as natural byproducts of the energetic work you were doing. But I wasn't, besides, for example, I did the exercise of holding a single item, kind of like in Franz Bardon. So say I would be doing standing Zen for 20 minutes and I have to hold the image of a rose in front of my mind for 20 minutes, and that also builds into clairvoyance. But also it's energy training because you learn, the way to keep the image of the rose floating is to continually be putting vital energy into it. So you're actually training kind of your physical senses and your optical senses at the same time. There may be traditions, outside of the one school I was in, though, that has exercises geared towards that.
Gotcha. Okay. I appreciate the answers. If that's fair enough, thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Bob. Did you have anything to add to that, or?
Just an elaboration, really. A lot of the traditional systems are heavily shamanic. So it really just depends upon which system you're practicing, how much of that material is there. What I will say is that with a lot of these systems, it teaches you to do these things reactively, because you can't really think your way through a fight, but you can react your way through a fight. And so, like Victoria was pointing out, you do all these different practices that generate a lot of energy, consciously or not. And a lot of these esoteric abilities just kind of happen. So, Wan Leixing, a former grandmaster of natural boxing, just from Western China originally, said, Ziranmen is not a spiritual practice in and of itself, but it's an excellent foundation for spiritual development. And that's what I've seen amongst the non-esoteric martial arts. The esoteric martial arts I've met, while their pedagogy is generally kind of a mess, a lot of the techniques we use in Bardon, I can see in hindsight.
Yeah.
Even if the teacher didn't really understand why they were there or how they were supposed to work or even what they eventually did. You get into a lot of that. And a lot of these long forms that you can learn, when energetically empowered, basically turn into ritual magic, even if the person doing it has no idea where that's supposed to go. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
The reason I asked that is because when I first started working with consciousness and of the senses in the spirit, it meant that the visualizations and all the stuff that happens in ritual magic has to go on the back burner. Otherwise, this synchronization starts to fade. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or just me, but it would start to fade at roughly the same time that you forget something in the short-term memory. So that's about 20 to 30 seconds. So in other words, you had to keep this synchronization, this consciousness awareness of the spirit going.
Right.
And every 20 or 30 seconds, you'd have to really stop whatever it was you were visualizing, which is the more basic kind of Western approach. Think of the elemental energy coming through the pentagram or whatever it was. Right. And you'd have to just really push back into this unification, this alignment that I'm talking about. Otherwise, it will just fade away completely as a feeling of being in a certain state. And I was curious as to how that related to martial arts, but that was. Thank you for satisfying my curiosity. I appreciate your answers.
Sure.
Cheers.
Yeah. No, great commentary there. And I like, I'm not a trained martial artist myself, but I'm out there practicing. I've got lots of books on Tai Chi Chuan and Tai Chi, and so I've got these forms that I like to play with, especially with the Kabbalah letters. These things just find these junction points that are so incredible. But when I have these three bodies all sort of like, it's like, this seems to be an incremental process of adding like things you're doing at the same time. So you start off doing these two, and then you start stacking these things, right? And the more you can hold these things, it's the same with playing guitar and singing. It's in effect, you're like, I'm playing something in a different tempo rhythm than I'm singing it. And like for me, that I'm quite impressed that I'm able to pull that off, because they're so, like, I can play drums and sing, I can play guitar and sing, and can sing, but playing bass and singing, that's a whole different thing. They're so different, it puts me off because of the timing of the syncopation.
The question I ask myself,
and
I'm therefore imposing on the audience, so I'll be much briefer, is when I move from consciousness of the awareness and the spirit into a higher theurgic state,
yes,
have I lost the consciousness of the spirit, or has it simply transformed into a higher theurgic state of Godhead? And that's just, but at the same time, I'm being a little unfair, because there might be people waiting to ask questions. So just stick that on the back burner. But that's where I was coming from.
Yeah.
If there's no questions coming in yet, I want to kind of give some commentary, because I think about this a lot. Just being aware of my own spirit, and there's so many degrees of expression I find my consciousness pinging. Whether it's my animal nature, my human nature, my more divine natures, myself in divine providence, and different mythological realms and different spaces. And I feel like, I could be wrong, this is just my personal observation, but each person's consciousness has this pull of varying degrees of expression of your original primordial consciousness that's descended and is expressing based on the manifestation at different levels of reality. So the astral plane has its different kind of energies depending on what your consciousness has done there. Your consciousness manifests in certain ways there, and similarly on the mental planes. And I may be a bit woo, but I feel like at one level we are all of those things at once. There's times in which where I felt like I've experienced everything, past, present, future, everything in the blink of the eye. And when you go outside of time, and say the astral or mental world, you see, like, one morning I might do a mental wandering or invocation or embody an astral form, and I'm one being. And then 6 hours later, I'm being another being, but they're all within the same day. They're both me, but they're just expressions of yourself at different times. So I think, like, your Godhead is still there. Well, when you are embodying your Godhead, your spirit is still there, but you are registering kind of more at the higher degree of your self-sovereignty. But you still have all of that at the same time. It's just curious phenomena, how we can be all of these things at different moments of space. Sorry.
The other, you see, that the other thing I was thinking about, which is why I focused on the kata and the three conscious awareness and the spirit, is where the sign. Really, what I'm interested in there is the signposts, and specifically Bardon signposts, because like everyone else here, I've addressed these matters in various magical systems or paradigms, and I was just interested in where your signposts are. And I know that to a certain extent it was perhaps a very nosy question, and I accept that. Anyway, there we are. That's all.
Okay.
That's all good. I don't mind.
That's good. It's fun. I like this aspect of this type of discussion, because we can just throw something there and we can all have a sort of a free time roundtable discussion on it. So, but I've got a question from the audience here that is a goodie. Is it possible to reincarnate with the full abilities / memories you gain in this lifetime? Similar to one of the other questions. So I'll throw this one to Bob first.
Most practitioners, that doesn't really seem to be the case. Even if we come back with tremendous potential, you still have to work through the different forms and different techniques to bring that potential forward. I'll say one thing, though. I've dealt with a couple of walk-ins over the years. People who basically died in their early teens, and then something came into them, who is now the person that's, standing before you. Not me. Okay, please. Not me. Let's make that very clear. And what I found out about them was they could do things, but they had no idea how they did them. Like one particular teacher I had that was terrifying for their ability to bring energy into the near physical. Literally with them, when they tried to explain it, they would say, I just have to get my body to take on the right shape, and this thing happens. So that was interesting. Another teacher of mine who had wide-reaching access to their former memories, their former selves, and a lot of ability too. In many ways, they seemed trapped by those former memories. Whether it was how they engaged with other people or how they engaged with the world around them, those prior experiences informed their current actions so strongly, it was almost like they were stuck. So, this one teacher I had was like, yeah, I've basically reincarnated as the exact same person 5 times in a row now. And their life had a variety of very interesting challenges, largely stemming from an inability to engage society constructively. So I think, yes, it is, from what I've seen dealing with other people. I'm not sure how wise an approach to things that is.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Victoria, have you got something to add on this one?
Sure. So we're talking about the future here. So the memories and abilities you have here, bringing those into the future. As Bob kind of mentioned, your potential carries over with you. And I think what I've observed is each person's spirit's ability to recall these things varies. There is one spirit in practice of magical evocation that can grant you all of the abilities that you've had from prior incarnations. I can't remember their name, but I came across it once. You might have this activated in another way as well. Each person's spirit is kind of funny. Once you kind of get into your spirit in higher states, sometimes when you transcend time and space, you're going to find sometimes lives do blur together, or abilities might bleed into one another. I think really each person's different. You know, we have these containers around us. There's immense value in kind of resetting in each lifetime, and gaining new experiences, having new memories. I mean, that's kind of the way our cosmos is designed. So you have to appreciate the architect of the universe probably had a reason for having that. You know, it's your spirit that is eternal, and in its original state will remember all things and contains all your experiences and incarnations. But for whatever reason, physically, we reincarnate birth, old age, death, over and over again, new memories, new experiences, new abilities. But my perspective is ultimately those all feed um, up your mental body back to your spirit. So being in these kind of lower planes is a way for your spirit to act within creation, cultivate, learn, experience, do things, etc. I do think it is possible, and there's people who do have this ability. So it's really kind of up to your inclination, your constitution and ability, your interest in having that or not, or just focusing on your current life in front of you right now as well.
Philip, would you like to jump on this? I know you've got to head off in a sec. So would you
Yeah,
like
it's,
to
20, it's
close
25, nearly 25 past 2, so I'll have to go in a minute. The short answer would be yes. One of the, for example, in the Western magical tradition, if you attain knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, you if you say at death there's a reset, if you're a computer and there's a hard reset and everything switches off, and then when you reincarnate it switches back on again, somehow knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel allows for the memory chip to keep key parts of you. In other words, there's no break in consciousness, or there doesn't need to be. You can have it still if you want, and there are uses for that. The problem, and if you like, well, it's not a problem, it's more of almost an irony. The personality, by achieving knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel, the personality is literally absorbed, and it's absorbed into all the other persona that were sent into existence by the holy guardian angel, so as to receive information from the material world. So what happens is, yes, your consciousness does continue, but you don't care, because it's just your personality and it's irrelevant. The holy guardian angel is the true, in Thelemic terms, the true start or core, and that is continuous. And by associating yourself with that, you don't have this reset when the personality goes, which means that you can access that personality in a future life. Now, in terms of taxonomy, how the HGA and Bardon's divine Godhead thing relate isn't exactly the same, but there are very close parallels between them. And I think, as Victoria was mentioning, it is something that people choose to do or not to do when they reach a certain state. In other words, by whatever system or paradigm of magic or hermetics or Eastern stuff that I'm less familiar with, they have cleaved to the spiritual core of themselves. And although the personality might not have this reset, switch off, and then reformat and start again, they can keep elements of that if they want, but usually they're not really bothered about it. And that would be, so it's like yes but no but. It's a quite a sitcom from here in the UK. So yeah, so you can, but the question is, do you want to? Because you don't care. You reach this kind of state, and when I've encountered people who are about to pass on, if they've done this kind of spiritual work, you definitely get that feel from them. You know, the spiritual core is the thing that is persisting, and whether or not the personality that most people consider to be them is cached or kept going is kind of irrelevant, and that doesn't really concern them almost. So I don't know if I could say any more than that, really.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, and just on that, that's the question. Would you want that? Even if it does happen, some people might be like, I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to take steps to ensure that doesn't happen, or I want that to happen, so I'm going to take steps for that to happen. Now, we've Philip. I tell you what, brother, if you like, we can call it at that. And
yeah, it's heading to 2:30. Well, no, actually 1:30 in the AM. But I've got the dog needs to go to the garden, which is her restroom, in a minute.
Thank you so much for joining us, and I know that it's a late one for the brothers and sisters in the UK time zone, so I'm very grateful for your time and your knowledge and your wisdom.
That's last, mate.
Yeah, and totally. So I've put the link below to Falcon Books Publishing, where people can check you out. They can also check you out at Perseus Arcane Academy as well. I'll put some more links in the description underneath, so people can find their way to you and your book that will be coming out sooner. So thank you for joining us, sir.
It's a pleasure, mate. All right, so I'm going to let the dog out now. She's looking at me with begging eyes. All right. Catch you again, guys. It's been a blast. Thank you for doing this, mate. It's really nice. I've really enjoyed it. I hope I get invited again, but I have to go now. Cheers.
Okay. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Awesome. Okay. Well, just us three now, and I know that we've been on for a bit, and I want to say thank you to you guys too. But I've got another question here, and now we're getting into some nerd territory on Kabbalah, and so I'm going to drop this one, and I'm going to throw this one to Bob first. So, besides the normal progression with the cosmic letters A to Z, is there any combination or use of the letters to enhance the learning and understanding the use of the letters? Because obviously A and H, comprehension and the actual understanding of the word. So Bob, go for it.
Anything involving the letter H, combinations. So BH, very helpful in this regard. But H in general is the language aspect of the letters. So if you can enhance that, it enhances your comprehension of the letters writ large. And so this also results in combinations. Working with the planets gives you insight into how the energies merge and change depending upon how they're manifested, their source manifestation, if you will. But yeah, anything involving the letter H or a combination thereof is definitely going to enhance the learning itself.
Awesome. Thank you. Victoria, is there anything you'd like to add to this one?
No, that's Bob's wheelhouse. I've gone through Kabbalah work through Bob and 60 Skills, but I'm by no means an expert or can give an informative response.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. And I'm super grateful for Bob too, man. He's such a encyclopedic knowledge powerhouse on this topic, or he's just really good at winging it. I'm pretty sure he's good at it though.
So I try.
You do great, man. Okay, well, I've got one last quick fire question for everybody, and that is, what is a book, a YouTube, an author, or a blog from someone outside of yourself that you would recommend to say, hey, look, this is worth checking out?
Well, obviously anything by Mark Rasmus, for sure. I would look at that. Unfortunately, most of my greater teachers were very traditional in that they really did one-on-one training and didn't really produce materials. So that made meeting them kind of tricky for anybody in any way other than a lightning strike. But Mark's stuff is real solid.
Awesome. Thank you. Victoria.
I'm going to be pretty expansive here and say anything by for all the authors and teachers on Perseus Arcane Academy and all the authors through Falcon Books. Within Bardon system, well, Perseus Academy covers both Bardonism, other teachers, many people different perspectives and experiences back there. Some name drops: Ray Del Sol, Martin Fox, Andre Conscientia, Bob Smith. Falcon Books also has put out many wonderful books from practitioners sharing their own advice, experiences, perspectives. So those are some great resources to go through as well.
Awesome. Yeah, great. I mean, you've pretty much covered everyone that I was going to mention there. And there is an emergence of content that is starting to get a little bit of a swell now. There's a bit of a crescendo, in a sense, you might say, of like things are starting to appear more now. And so, for everyone out in the audience who's listening, guys, it's a really great time. And I just want to say thank you so much to the audience, because there's people who are still sticking around, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have everyone here. And so now I'm going to start just winding things down, and I'm going to say, Victoria, is there anything you would like to close with? Anything you'd like to mention, or anything you would like to just say in closing?
Sure. So my gratuitous plug is I talk on YouTube, I talk on TikTok, I make posts on Facebook sometimes about different esoteric stuff. I'm not a cult of personality, but just someone who practices, is interested in sharing my insights and meeting interesting people. But take advantage of the community, learn from them, stick around. It's through the community that I was able to grow and develop myself. So I think there's tremendous value in the community for everyone else as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. And I got to say, the community is getting reasonable now. And I have to say, this is definitely one of my favorite communities in the whole arena of exploring the internet. Bob, is there anything you would like to add on the, as far as a parting bit of wisdom and also a dig for your goodies?
Sure. 60skills.com, Perseus Arcane Academy. Obviously, you can find all my stuff there. But just to piggyback on what both you and Victoria have said, it's very easy to be a grandmaster in our grandmother's basement and never see the light of day. But it's the people we engage with that ultimately have given me the most enjoyment in life. So, yeah, you got to do most of the work on your own. There's no getting around that. But take time to get out of your grandmother's basement and meet some other people. They can shave years off your progression timeline, but at a minimum, they will make your life much more interesting and much more worthwhile. So that's what I would say. Even if you get into these ridiculous pedantic arguments over, whether or not Hawaiian pizza is a real pizza or a, crime against God, as one of my Italian fellows once remarked to me. To which I remarked, well, you're just mad because Columbus wasn't Roman, so anyway, it's just go out there and make some friends, guys. Go out there and make some friends.
Yeah, and just to follow on from that, like this is a big, wonderful world to explore, and the diversity and interpersonal relationships from just meeting new people and the surprises. I mean, this magic stuff becomes, for me, it's become a lot more normalized. I'm not sort of like exalting the path of the magician like I once did. You get to a point of like, oh, this is Tuesday. It's practice time sort of thing, and it's like, suddenly my relationships and the way I view the world is becoming. Simpler things become much more valuable and interesting. This is something I've noticed, and it just adds to such a quality of life. I don't have so many shiny things vying for my attention now, but I have a very select, wonderful group of people in a circle that really makes my life quite special. And I'm just going to extend that to you guys as well for the remainder of the panel too. I really enjoy the stuff that you create, and the fact that you're putting yourselves out there too, because that's not easy for a lot of people. And so I'd like to encourage people in the audience who are thinking about starting a channel or getting into some content creation. By all means, all the tools are there. There's a wealth of material to pull from, and you got to start somewhere. So just get started, right? So would anyone like to finish up with anything before we call the end of the stream?
I'm good, man. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to seeing everybody again soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the audience. Glad to have you here. And maybe Phil will do this again with some other folks as well.
Yeah, well, who knows? Who knows? It's a big world. We'll see what happens. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you to our wonderful audience. And yeah, it's just been it's been a lot of fun as a thing to try out. And so, oh, hang on, where's Bob gone? There he's gone. And yeah, just we might see you again soon. Stay well and have a beautiful day. And don't forget to vent. All right. See you guys later.